Welcome to For Felliness, belysning.
You are not broken. You are out of balance. And there is a path home. This is For Felliness, belysning. From the Alaska ulfhednar, ancestral morning light for those who have been through hell and are still standing. This nonprofit has a sliding scale guidance at alaskaulfhednar.org/guidance. For Felliness, belysning begins now. Every day, someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great-grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them.
Good morning, and happy Wotan's Day to you. Today, of course, we celebrate the god Wotan, who was later known in the sagas as Odin. We'll talk about his quest for wisdom, but today I want to talk about the Owl's Watch. What does this even mean? Well, of course, as you may know, the owl, the never-sleeping watcher of all the realms, brings a wisdom to us and really embodies this quest that Odin sought throughout his physical lifetime and certainly beyond. So we'll talk about the quest for wisdom. Before we get started today, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for passing on the message. I hope that for those of you who have individuals in your lives who may need some buoys along their coastal lines, I hope that you direct them in my way. I offer the wisdom that the ancestors have given me. I offer it freely, and I hope that you will embrace it and use it for what the gods intended, and that is, of course, to provide us with a better mental space. Well, today's show is sponsored by Mountain Rose Herbs, which, by the way, off the charts, amazing products. Herbs and spices, whether you use them as part of your ingredients for your healing and whatnot, or whether you use them in culinary purposes. Teas, tinctures, you name it, they've got it. Wonderful opportunity to garner in some of the best products that are available on the market. So do check them out. You can find them and all of our other amazing affiliates at akumedia.akoutlaw.com/sponsors. So do check them out. As always, I want to also advise for those of you who are really searching for answers and would like to talk one-on-one with me, please check out the website below, akulfhednar.com/guidance, or it's actually akulfhednar.org/guidance. We do have a sliding scale for those of you who may be tapped in the with all the things going on with particularly here in the United States. So feel comfortable, feel safe coming to that website and checking it out. So finally, I want to give a huge shout out to my friends and my family at New Reality TV. New Reality TV, of course, that streaming channel with a dedicated plethora of perspectives of our spiritual journey. So just a wonderful opportunity to find something that resonates with you and helps you to become that next evolutionary version of you, that better version of you. All right, so do check those out. As always, this morning, our morning chat is wide open, so feel free to hit it up. YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Facebook, you name it. Just go ahead and drop those questions and comments, and by all means, please feel free to let me know. Okay, so this morning, today we're talking about the Owl's Watch, and I think that's really, really exciting because the Owl's Watch, of course, the owl represents this never-ending watch, constantly watching. Well, what's the advantage of that? What benefit would that bring to us? Well, of course, when we think about wisdom and we think about raising up our level of intrinsic wisdom, we're thinking about marrying the knowledge and intellect that we have in our mind against the experience of actually seeing that work. Well, whatever it is, right? So, car mechanics, all of it all has a level of wisdom to it. Why? Because when we take experience and we marry it to intellect, where it's now creating this matrix within the mind of these different connections to other intellect stacks and other knowledge stacks, we're building this level of wisdom. Now, what does wisdom do for us? Well, other than give us a really attractive long beard, it also provides us with what we call imagination. Imagination, of course, is that forethinking. It's forecasting what's going to happen based on what's already happened and then the relationships between the intellect. So if we think about imagination kind of being that lead up to this other system that we're probably pretty familiar with, and that's the fight or flight syndrome or the fight or flight process. And essentially what it means is that our brain evaluates a situation and determines if it's something that we need to engage in a battle or do we need to flee. Those are our two choices under the fight or flight. Now, obviously, a spectrum of each of those exists, and this is not one state or the other. It's on a timeline or it's on a spectrum line. So we have different levels of these different pieces, right? So back and forth. And what's prefacing that, what's kind of staging our thinking or our thought process around this fight or flight is imagination. Think back when it was our ancestors and there was no technology, there was no real thorough, detailed definitions of everything. And they were out in the wilderness and they were, that's where they lived. And so as they scouted the landscape, as they watched the landscape, their eyes were looking for predators. Now remember, up until probably the invent of gunpowder, we were not the top of the food chain. And even still, there are many places that we are still not the top of food chain, Alaska being one of them. So we were not the top of the food chain. So we had to be cautious. We had to be on the lookout for predators that may try to eat us, right? Or our family or kin. So imagination was that thing, that imagery that came forward and that was processed with our sensory input. And so as we look at a particular scene, the landscape there, what imagination would do for us is it would eliminate the things that it considered were not deciding factors in a particular scene, right? So as we looked at the high grass, our imagination would highlight the lion's face in the high grass and go, there's a predator. We should, A, pick up our spear, or B, beat feet out of here, right? So imagination has a value. It has a very important portion of its mission. Now, the wisdom part of this says we have high grass, right? So we know about high grass in our mind. That's a good intellect stack. And we know there are lions out there. lions live everywhere. Well, back in those days, I guess, lions were pretty abundant. And third piece of intellect, lions eat humans. Okay? All things that we need to consider. Now, our experience would have us show that, yes, lions do attack from high grass. Lions are the same color as high grass, so they're hard to see. And it's a very quick attack. So it's it's going to allow you to get semi-close before it actually strikes. So it's going to kind of, haunch down. It's going to get ready to pounce. So all of these things are all feeding together, and now we're feeding into our eyes as to what we see. We see the high grass. We see some shadows in the high grass, and we're like, that's a lion. And they're about to do something, so I need to engage my fight or flight. So now the physiological process takes over of the body, right? So we either A, grab the spear, point in the right direction, or we beat feet out of there, okay? So this is really the mission, if you will, of what imagination brings to our everyday life. Now, when there aren't any threats, imagination can kind of run away with us. Because remember, imagination doesn't just turn on for certain cases. It's like, oh, we're in high grass, I need to put my imagination on. Yeah, no. Imagination is running all the time. Why? Because it's a byproduct of wisdom. What's wisdom? Wisdom, of course, as we mentioned, is the combination between experience and intellect. Right? So those two things intersect, creating a web with other stacks of intellect, right? So we got this matrix thing going on. And then that's fed through the system, and it's kind of fed into our sensory input as the sensory input is being converted. So sensory input comes in as an example through the eyeball, and the eyeball says, well, we obviously can't take this environment, stuff it in our eyeball, so we're going to convert the image that we see into bioelectricity that then I can pass over the optic nerve to the rest of my brain. So imagination is feeding that. So every sensory input you have, every time you see, hear, touch, taste, smell, anything, imagination is feeding in energy into that experience before it's processed. Which is why sometimes when we see things, something happening, or maybe it's just something that we see, we may note that it creates more of emotional differences that we weren't expecting. As an example, a very good friend of mine, I think, as I recall the whole story, had gotten hit by a car when he was a young man. And he had gotten hit, and the car was white, right? And so it was a white car that hit him. And, of course, the car that hit him didn't stop. They ran, drove away. So he had anxiety about white cars. And so as we were visiting with him and we were moving around, lo and behold, a white car appeared, because they're pretty popular. So white car appears. It's completely in its lane. It's doing its thing. It's, to me, my imagination never keyed in on that car. I didn't have the experiences that he had. He had had this experience, and that experience was woven into his wisdom. Therefore, that wisdom fed imagination. Imagination came into the sensory input. He saw something that I didn't. In his case, he saw the car swerving towards us. Now, he kind of moves quickly to the side to get out of harm's way. and tries to drag me. So I'm like, what are you doing? What are we doing? And he said, that person seems to be swerving towards us. And he's, possibly going to hit us. No, he never left his lane. And he seems very attentive. Make eye contact. I mean, he's driving. He's doing his thing. He's probably going to somewhere else. He's on his way to another meeting or wherever, right? But because this person, my friend, had this experience, the experience generated through imagination, and he thought he saw the car swerving towards us. This is the effect that our imagination can play on our sensory input. Two people can look at the same exact thing and see it very differently. We do that because imagination is being fed into that imagery, into what we're processing in our sensory input. Sensory input is fed by that imagination, which is then passed immediately to what I refer to as the mood ring. And the mood ring, of course, is where we have a preconceived or a pre-built emotional state that now affects that collective energy. So we have imagination, we have sensory input. It's all bundled together and stuffed into our eyeball. Our eyeball then converts it into a bioelectricity. That bioelectricity is then passed to the mood ring. That mood ring then is how we're looking at the world. Now, this can indeed provide an additional level of manipulation of the image. Because if we're grumpy, things are going to seem more negative. So the image that we're bringing in, as an example, the experience that we're having may seem more negative. Conversely, if we're in a good mood and everything's going our way, we may see opportunity and growth and beauty and those types of things. Why? Because our mood ring is set for that emotional state. So imagination plays a very big part. The imagination is simply the forward part or the forecasting part of wisdom. Wisdom, of course, is the construct between experiences and intellect. So all those crossroads lead us to believe certain things we see. So when we see, hear, touch, taste, smell, certain things, certain events, certain experiences, our imagination is part of that, whether we like it or not. So it is part of that. So part of what you're seeing is really not what you're seeing. It's what you think you see. I know, right? It kind of gets into the whole philosophy thing. But the key is that we have control of that. We can control what our imagination is feeding in fight or flight. Right? Remember, because that's one of its primary functions is to kind of be kind of forecasting necessity of making that decision, fight or flight, right? So fight or flight, we have those versus a no response or a limited response. So those are kind of the extremes on this spectrum of which how to respond to particular experiences that we're having. All right, so super, super important. All right, so before we go much further, it's time. It is time. It is time for us to seek wisdom and knowledge from the runes. And today, we draw Othala. Othala. I love Othala. Othala, of course, being the last rune of the Elder Futhark runes, provides a cycle, is what it does. So as we kind of complete one cycle of the experiences and the powers of the runes, we're beginning anew. So Othala being the end comes around to Fehu, and Fehu starts again with a new beginning. Now, Othala is productive, and I quote, productive interaction, freedom, group order, group prosperity, to the mind. What I call Othala is home. We've completed a journey of, particularly of the Elder Futhark, and we've arrived home. Home being the end cycle before making another journey. So it's kind of end cycle, right? So a very important rune to have today is that we are coming home in our knowledge, in our intellect, in our wisdom, coming home to a place where we feel comfortable with who we are, and that we're in charge of everything within our mind. So we're going to take a very, very quick commercial break. When we come back, let me see here. There's buttons I have to press. When we come back, we're going to talk about how we can use the owl's watch, that never-ending watch of the owl, and in our everyday, modern-day life. So we'll be right back after this short commercial break, and we'll get after it.
Feed the four-footed food right. Zeal Pet Foods keeps ingredients honest and energy steady. Check out all their options and all the links in our webpage at sponsors.
It's happening.
It's in the air.
The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me. It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
NewRealityTV.com.
Level up your language in minutes a day. TalkPal AI gives instant feedback and real practice. Try it and try the link in our description.
These words are stirring something heavy in you. You don't have to carry it alone. Sliding Scale Spiritual Guidance with sessions outside normal business hours is available through the Alaska ulfhednar. Visit akulfhednar.org/guidance to book a free discovery session.
Welcome back, and thank you for taking that quick break. As always, my friends and family at New Reality TV, I can't begin to express my appreciation for all they do. There's so many perspectives, so many wonderful gifts that I'm sure you will find one that resonates with you, that you can use to help evolve you along your trajectory towards your spiritual destiny. So check them out, newrealitytv.com. So today we're talking about the watch of the owl, or the never-ending watch of the owl. And again, we're talking about experiences now. This goes right to the story that we know of Othin, who would give one of his eyes that he may drink from the well of Erd, or the well of Murmur. And in that story, we know that the well contained a root of Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil, of course, being the center tree of the universe, contains all of the experiences of all the existences throughout all the realms. So there's a huge ton of experiences within that water. Odin would drink from these in the same way that we live a physical life. We are simply drinking from the well of Erd as we go about our lifetime. We're absorbing these experiences that then provide us with the construction of wisdom. Wisdom, of course, being the foundation and the driving energy behind imagination. Imagination, again, is the cycle of bringing in sensory input into our processing, into our thought process, into altering our emotional state moving forward. So let's talk about what that means to us every day. Why do we need to know that? Well, one of the main things that we need to examine as we look upon experiences that we have in this thing we call reality, we need to evaluate, is that real? Is it really happening, or is it my imagination? Now, imagination does not have to be obvious. It can be very subtle, but it's manipulating your perspective of this thing, this experience that you're having. So we have to kind of question that. And this is where that cognitive space comes into function. It's really where we see the benefit from it, is that as we're processing these experiences, we need to think about them, ponder them for a minute, hold on to them, and embrace what's kind of going on. What's emotionally, what am I feeling? One of the things that imagination will do is it brings forth this emotional energy almost right out of the gate. It'll include the emotional energy from last time. Now, although it may be dimmed, it'll be there nonetheless. And so it's a matter of us evaluating what we're seeing. What are we experiencing? Are we experiencing it the way it's made to, or it really happened? Or are we adding our tinge to it? Are we kind of coloring the image very differently than really what it was? And this goes to communication as kind of one of the critical keys of recognizing our imagination versus reality, right? So how are we experiencing it? How are we interpreting that? Two very important things. So I hope that you will take some time today to think about those things in your life that may be affecting you in a negative way or an unwanted way, and reevaluate them. Are they really that bad? And I'm not saying they won't be. They may be. But are they? And why? Are we applying our local or our regional assessment of their worth, of their good versus bad, right versus wrong? I don't know. I mean, it's your experience. So think about those today as we go about our day, Othin's Day, or Wotan's Day as it's called. And think about how those things are affecting you in an unwanted way. Because remember, as we try to establish our control, one of the ways we're going to do that is we need to understand where we're at today. So having recognition of our current situation and figuring out what imagination is doing to our experiences is probably one of those key ingredients that can help us get back to a better mental space. All right? So think about that today as we embrace Wotan's Day. I will see you again, for those of you who want to join us tonight, 6:30 p.m. Alaska time, for another edition of Sporks Mall, where we'll answer one of those questions that you've asked us through our website. And for those individuals that we make shows about, we'll send them a free shirt. So if you haven't got your chance yet, be sure to check that out, because if nothing else, you can get a free shirt out of the deal and an answer to your question. Win-win. All right, my friends, have a wonderful, and I do mean wonderful, Wotan's Day. We will see you again this evening for Sporks Mall, and then again tomorrow for another edition of Forfelliness Belysning. Love and light, my friends. felinos. Una. Hjälpas med. Magnify. Two for og. Galliot.
If what we've touched today hits something raw for you, you don't have to carry it alone. We offer a sliding scale spiritual guidance with sessions outside normal business hours. Visit akulfhednar.org/guidance to book a free discovery session.